been more than a year since the Food and Drug Administration issued its proposed tobacco deeming regulations. These regulations would give the agency the same regulatory authority it currently has over cigarettes, traditional stick tobacco cigarettes, to other unrelated tobacco products like e-cigarettes and hookahs. These regulations are critical for public health, especially for children, yet they've languished within the administration for more than a year. A year is too long to wait because we know what's been happening. According to a report from the Centers for Disease Control, the FDA's own Center for Tobacco Products, in the past year, e-cigarette use has tripled among teens. Absent any regulation, more and more of these potentially dangerous products have found a way into the hands of our children. After just a few years on the market, children's use of e-cigarettes has now surpassed the use of traditional cigarettes. Think back when the first time you heard about e-cigarettes. I didn't know what people were talking about. And now we see more children are using e-cigarettes than traditional cigarettes. This is in large part because we failed to regulate these addictive products. Until these regulations are finalized, Mr. President, e-cigarette companies will be able to freely advertise their products to our children in Juneau and our children in Cleveland. What many people fail to realize is that often e-cigarette companies and big tobacco companies are now one and the same. Marlboro maker Altria Group, the nation's largest tobacco company, is making up for its loss in revenue as cigarette smoking has declined, and among children too, making up its loss of revenue from combustible tobacco products by marketing its Mark 10 electronic cigarettes. Lorillard has acquired Blue e-cigarettes. Reynolds America, the makers of Camel and Pall Mall, also has a new cigarette called Vuse. Much of big tobacco's behavior is driven by one giant and irrefutable fact. Tobacco in the United States kills 400,000 people a year. Think about that. 400,000 Americans die prematurely from tobacco-related illness every year. What does that mean? That means, Mr. President, that the tobacco companies need to find 400,000 new customers a year. They're not going to people like the presiding officer or me or the people staffing the Senate floor. They're going to people like the Pages. They're going to people 16 and 17 years old to addict them to cigarettes. People my age rarely start smoking. People their age so often do. So big tobacco's got to find these new customers. It used to be they preyed on children with highly paid, sophisticated tobacco executives who spent their days figuring out how to entice teens to start smoking. Think Joe Camel, think some of those, Camel number 5, some of the things they did. Now that they're no longer allowed to advertise traditional tobacco products to kids, and parenthetically, Mr. President, that's one of the great public health victories in this country. What this body did, what the House of Representatives did, what presidents have done to alert public health and to change young people's behavior so young people did not start smoking in as large numbers. That was an effort by government and consumer groups and children's groups. These tobacco companies now, though, are taking advantage of the new unregulated world of e-cigarettes to advertise their products directly to children because they can. Joe Camel's been replaced by celebrities smoking e-cigarettes. These companies sponsor youth-oriented events. They air ads on TV and radio aimed at teenagers. They're using new advertising platforms on social media to get to kids where parents typically are not looking. The shameful e-cigarette marketing tactics employed by tobacco companies are aimed at encouraging this next new generation to use tobacco. The CDC's study shows their tactics are working. Triple the use, triple the number of kids, young people smoking e-cigarettes. Another recent study revealed that teens were able to purchase e-cigarettes online in 94% of the attempts they made. None of them were required to show proof of their age when the cigarettes were delivered. A study published in the New England Journal of Medicine examined the use of candy flavors in tobacco products, found that, no surprise here, flavors drive increases in tobacco use among kids. E-cigarettes and their refill liquids come in thousands of different flavors, as we see. Gummy bears, sweet tarts, Fruit Loops. This is a bottle of gummy bears. Just look at this photo. It's gummy bear flavored e-liquid. The bottle's about this big. As the president of the American Academy of Pediatrics, Dr. James Perrin, said, because liquid nicotine comes in bright colors and in flavors appealing to children, cotton candy and gummy bears, for instance, it's no surprise that these products have found their way into the hands of children. I don't think they're making gummy bears to encourage people the age of the presiding officer to get them to start smoking, or my age. They're getting young children to start smoking. Gummy bears, Fruit Loops, Sweet Tarts, those are candies that young children receive at Halloween. They're also flavors of highly toxic liquids. The bottle in this photo, again, this much, the bottle in this photo contains 2 teaspoons of liquid nicotine. A single teaspoon of this e-liquid, even if it's highly diluted, can kill a small child if ingested. This is totally legal. You'll see this in drugstores. You'll see this sold all kinds of places. Children are likely to pick it up if they see it around the house. There is a chance, there always is in a country of 300 million people, that some child will, attracted by this, looking at this, the pictures, the cute little bottle, will drink it, and that child can die. It's past time for FDA to regulate these dangerous products before more children and more teenagers get hooked on e-cigarettes. My colleagues and I, a number of us led by Senator Merkley, also Senator Blumenthal, and a number of others, Senator Durbin, they've called on the FDA over and over again to finalize this proposed rule and reject efforts to weaken these proposed regulations. Every day the FDA waits is thousands of more children getting addicted to nicotine, thousands of more children exposed potentially to drinking this very toxic liquid, thousands of more children smoking these e-cigarettes. Tobacco companies are pushing to allow more products to be grandfathered out of the new rules. They want to exempt a huge range of e-cigarettes from any review to determine whether they're a threat to public health. That would mean, Mr. President, these products would never be subject to review by the FDA. How stupid as a nation could we be? We've been so successful in the last 40 years as public health officials, as members of Congress, as responsible adults, as consumer groups and advocates for children. We've been so successful in reducing the age of smoke, reducing the incidence of smoking, especially among young people. It's changed the whole next generation. Now we're letting this happen. E-cigarettes are still tobacco products. They're used by the tobacco industry, and I even talked about this yet, as a gateway cigarette for kids, and that has to stop. They see this, they start smoking these e-cigarettes. A year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, they're smoking traditional tobacco, and they're addicted, and we know what addiction to cigarettes is for so many of our fellow Americans. My colleagues and I, Mr. President, urge the Food and Drug Administration to strengthen and finalize these regulations before any more of our children get hooked on potentially dangerous and addictive tobacco products.